We are back with Bruce Mitchell. What about, real quick, let's get right back. This is a great topic next. What about the Orange Show in Winston-Salem at WrestleCade? Talk about that some, if you will.
Yeah, WrestleCade, 6th or 7th year of WrestleCade, and Arn Anderson, who worked for the Fullers and Continental Wrestling, worked for
down in Pensacola
Promotions down in Pensacola.
Yeah, he loved it.
Was brought in by Ric Flair, became the man who named the Four Horsemen, the enforcer of the Four Horsemen. And I say this very sincerely, our guy. You were in Greensboro.
Front row section D.
Front row section D. He was the guy. I mean, he would do promos on the air about us sometimes, and just a great hardworking wrestler, one of the great promos. And I'm a promo guy, one of the great promo guys ever. And went through the NWO time in WCW and had to retire because of his neck and his his back, but stayed. Nobody did this except for maybe Vince McMahon. Stayed employed with the wrestling company for 33 years, and also stayed married for 30. It still is married to the same woman 37 years, and finally, the love between him and Vince McMahon finally ran its course, and a lot slower than it did with a lot of people. And I got a chance because of, I've known Conrad Thompson for years and friends with him, and he could not come, had family obligations on Thanksgiving, and he'd already planned to WrestleCade to be the first Arn Anderson live podcast. They do those with Bruce Pritchard, and they do them with Eric Bischoff, and at different locations, and he knew that I wanted at some point to interview Arn Anderson, and he just had me do the Crockett's, and everybody was happy with that. And I know Arn and definitely respect and think a lot of him, and so got the chance. Since it wasn't Conrad, I was worried about it because Conrad didn't tell everybody until that day of the show, and I was like, oh my God, these people love Conrad, and I don't know if they love me. But it worked out really well.
Because I talked to J.P. Mundy, who writes some of the time for the News and Record and the Winston-Salem Journal online and with the paper, the hard copy paper.
Yeah.
He was there watching, stayed there all day, brought his son. He introduced himself to you. You met him.
Yeah.
Anyway, J.P.'s quote was from Arn. Arn's quote, looked at Bruce Mitchell. Arn did. Looks at Bruce. Arn says, do you know who this guy is? And he went right into the front row section D. Said this guy was among those at the Coliseum back when we were coming through. There was the Four Horsemen, and it really gave you guys a great kick. That was a great
that was, and I do have to say the other thing that really touched me is you do this torch work, you do this work with Andy Durham, you do all these things for all these years, and there are people who definitely follow and and then you don't know how people are with you. And when he said, do you know who these people are? I looked out in the audience and they went, oh yeah. And that was the touching moment. I really
people are still talking about it. I talked to a guy yesterday at Sprinkle Oil on Lee Street, Chris Rich, now Gate City Boulevard / Lee Street. But Chris said, I remember those days I was out there. I remember those guys. I remember them well. He wanted to know how to get that book. The book is still available. Front row section D for John Hitchcock. Still available on Amazon and other locations.
Or if you're watching this and you live in Greensboro, go to Parts Unknown. He has it. He was there at WrestleCade with a table selling the book. So it's everything in that book actually happened. What can you say? So,
one thing that Arn was there with you, had a question. I thought one of the better fan questions. So he drew a lot of talk and discussion and interest. His question about the current wrestlers of today, the Mount Rushmore, who those guys be? That was kind of an interesting question. You remember that?
Yeah, I thought such a one Mount Rushmore was Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
And he said Braun Strowman and the revival who are from here. Scott Dawson and Dasher. And
not to be confused with the Dawsons, NWA, right?
Oh,
not to be confused with them.
By the way, keep a close eye on them on this tape, is all I got to say. And I'm a big fan of those Dawsons too. And the revival, it's tougher to do in WWE, but I mean they are the top tag team wrestlers in the world. I mean, in the WWE, I wouldn't say in the world, but in WWE, and they're right up there in the world. And they're very much Arn Anderson-esque, and so those two and him, and I think they say Adam Cole, and that got a ton of reaction. I mean, it was an interesting question. You always get that who's Four Horsemen, but to ask the guy who was the Horseman.
And the thing about Arn Anderson, usually gets these questions. It's not like there's a very long pause. He usually has an answer ready pretty quick. He's thinking about these pretty quick with his
Very
feet.
smart guy,
Yeah.
very thoughtful about wrestling. And then he's not a guy who, because of working in WWE, but also I know from before this, I mean, he keeps up with the best wrestlers. I mean, and not just in WWE, but in New Japan and everywhere else. He's watching and, very much a guy. I liken him in some ways to, and he'll say this, a journeyman.
Yeah.
To the top baseball managers. The top baseball managers, usually aren't Ted Williams. I mean, of course, he was a manager for many years in Washington, but not the naturally talented guys, but the guys who had to learn every little trick and every little technique to master their sport. And Arn's like that, and so he can teach it too. And that's he's. Interviewing him and being around him, he's still got that. I'm going to be careful about what I say, which you have to have in WWE.
That's a true businessman there.
But yeah, he was. It was interesting to me. He never said anything negative about Dusty Rhodes, and he lived through the best of Dusty and the worst of Dusty, and he, I think that he has a lot of respect and a lot of thankfulness to him, and was not as careful, not as careful about Vince McMahon, and then it seemed like he was, very much on the, he's been, used a tiny bit in AEW, a little bit, and and perhaps will be used more. I look for some more for him in professional wrestling.
That Spine on the Pine was really good, though. I did enjoy that. Spine on the Pine.
Yeah, and he was very good. He laid out the majority of John Cena's matches, John Cena's main event matches, and so he had a really, he's you talk about somebody who had a huge influence on wrestling in so many different ways. I mean, that was really interesting to talk about, and something I hadn't had him talk about, but I hadn't ever heard him talk about, but I'd always thought and had wondered about some, was his influence on Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he said, yeah, it's definitely there, that Austin watched Arn and watched Arn's promos, and as he put together the character Stone Cold Steve Austin, very much talked to Arn about what he was thinking and how he put it together, of the Enforcer. So
we talked about a couple of guys in his recent show. You talked about Journeyman earlier. You talked about this guy named Mike Jackson and George South. Mentioned both of those guys.
Yeah.
They're being Journeyman. Can still go today. George South, I think, 62, and Mike Jackson 70. And Arn said, "I'll give it to those guys. Those guys can still go today.
That's true.
They can teach. They can still go."
And they're in different ways. But Mike Jackson wrestled Darius Lockhart. We're sitting on Spring Guard Street, and Darius Lockhart, who's an up-and-coming wrestler around the world, went to UNC Greensboro here, and but I saw him wrestle in Charlotte, a couple of those two, and Mike Jackson's older than I am, and he's older than you are, I think.
70,
and he's in just tremendous shape, and he can still move around the ring and fly around the ring, and he was the guy that we all watched in the early 80s, and the Alabama junior heavyweight champion, but another hustler, another guy who still makes money at wrestling, and George South, the last Mid-Atlantic wrestler, and he was at WrestleCade, and he was in Baltimore too for StarCast and for the AEW, and there's a lot of people who have trained and worked with George South, and there is no other George South. There's nobody like him. So, I bought his book. I mean, as soon as I saw that it was there in WrestleCade, I always go talk to him. And there's he has his autobiography. Now he has a career results book, and it's really cool to look at because wrestled around here a lot. He wrestled in Northwestboro for Hunter. For Hunter,
what was in that book?
Johnny
One of those
Hunter,
books by his son. His son mentioned the book. It was My Dad Doesn't Work. He's a Wrestler, or something in that name.
Oh, right. That was and it was and noted he worked. And he carried a lot of respect, and he didn't win every match. He didn't win the majority of his matches, and he wasn't featured as a top guy, but he was a very important part of the business and learned so much about the business. He's still to this day. I mean, he was chosen to wrestle the Great Muta at WrestleCade because Muta could not move. His knees are not You can't
Speaking
really
of
walk
Buddha,
around,
before I forget,
like,
what about our man Tim Blaze? Tim Blaze is the chauffeur to pick up Buddha and pick up Kibashi, I think it is, Hibashi, and they picked up a bunch of guys. I mean, Tim Blaze has run those guys around.
Tim Blaze is, Tim Blaze helps book the WrestleCade show in AML, and is, reckless youth. He's no longer a youth. He's still, I guess he's a little reckless, but I talked to him, and he's smart guy, and helped get Barry Windham there, and kind of tipped me off to the fact that George South is going to wrestle Great Muta, which sounds ridiculous in some ways, but George South can walk and talk and entertain a crowd and keep things going when a guy can't really walk. When his opponent can't really move in the ring.
Can carry that guy, then carries him through the match.
Carries him through the match and knows how to sell the miss to the face, which is more than I can say for some of the ones that wrestled Rookie Warriors in WWE.
What about this real quick before we take our next break? Not real quick, but let's just break this down right quick if we can. What about Jim Cornette's leaving the NWA, how it came about? Do you think it was a smooth ending? Because it looked like but the way on TV, it looked like a pretty good send-off they gave him during the Rock and Roll Express's match. They didn't blow it open on the last TV show. Well, I know it was a bad situation when he left, for sure.
Well, I mean, the situation was they taped several shows in a row, including the show that Cornette made his comment on, and
did you catch it when it went through? Did you hear it?
Yeah,
you caught it. Okay.
And I remember this. It's an old line he's used many times.
He uses a lot of those old lines, or he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and he that was what and he enjoyed that, but he also, and then so I talked to the producer of NWA, David Lagana, about what happened, and to me it was one of those things where with Cornette. Where it was like, okay, he said something, we all do at time, particularly if you work somewhere, and when you do, you just got, the way you do professionally is you just say, oh, I'm sorry, I won't let it happen again. And I think if he'd done that from the beginning with Lagana, with Bill Corgan, it wouldn't have been, and done it publicly. I mean, there were people looking at him because of comments he's made over the years and things he's done over the years. Kind of like looking to, that opening was there, but that happens in everybody's job. It's like if you're known for not showing up for work on time, and they tell you better show up on work on time, then you know what, you better show up on work on time. If you then start slipping, it's like it's not the same as somebody else. And so Cornette loves to, to cuss people out and loves to, go on a rant and all that. And so instead of just doing the thing to get it to go by, he was very much an attention seeker, and I just thought it was childish. I just thought this was, it wasn't the greatest thing in the world to say, but it was something that you could apologize for real quickly and get by. It wasn't the worst thing in the world to say either. And Cornette, that's why he's not as smart as he is and as canny as he is about wrestling.
Well, he's burned a ton of bridges. Is there any place he could go back to now?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back, but he's nowhere that's mainstream, nowhere that's major league, and that's.
What about Major League Wrestling right on MLW? What about those?
Well,
he was there before, wasn't he?
He was there and acted up, and they had to get rid of him there. I mean, I can see maybe him returning there, but I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's like you have to also be professional. You have to also, act like a grown up at some point, and. There are times when that happened, I was just like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm so tired of Jim Cornette. I mean, and I never felt like that when I was on the out, and I'm still on the outs with him. I never felt like that before, but I'm just like, I knew what the reaction was going to be. I knew that it was going to be, I'm going to bless out a whole bunch of people and not take responsibility for myself, and that's what he did. He had nerve enough to go to Lagana, hey, why didn't you, who was produced the show, like, why didn't you cut that line out? Lagana just missed it. And Lagana's like, yeah, I cut out this line and this line and this line that you said that you knew better then, and I missed that one. And, instead of saying, hey, I'm sorry, or, I mean, I don't know, if like I say something on this thing and you don't cut it out, I can't I've got to apologize to you. Like, if I put
so he blamed it on Dave Lagana then. He blamed it on Lagana.
He blamed it on Lagana, and it's just, I don't know. And his reaction to it, there was also a part where he talked about a time where he did feel sorry that he had said something and he hadn't done it, he regretted it. And it was like something that, it was something that he was awful to Wade Keller about, who I work for, and cursed out his mother on, called up the phone, she picked the phone and cursed out his mother, who I'm friends with. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't you apologizing to Wade? It's like, if what you did was wrong then, and Wade's still on the enemies list, because Jim Cornette lives for the enemies list. Jim lives for righteously cursing out somebody and getting over that way. And it's like, that's great, but it's cost him. He'd rather cuss somebody out than be a power in wrestling, and wrestling could have used him.
He could have really used him, yeah.
Yeah.
He could have been with the WWE today, even still, if he would have had his
WWE could have, if he'd have done a better job of keeping himself in check with them, they could have certainly used him all that time.
It would have been maybe good of years. Maybe just got Jim Cornette working behind the scenes and not put him on camera. Maybe that was always a mistake.
Well, it's not even it's not the camera. It's the personality. It's the personality. It's the volatile.
It is even the same thing behind the scenes too. Then
very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, what you see is what you get.
Was it that way in Smoky Mountain all those years when he was actually the guy at the top working to run the business? Did he run the business?
Could be. Yeah, there were definitely times when he was like that. Definitely times all through his career and all through his life. And at some point you've got to, we all have to compromise or not fight. That old expression I think is a pretty smart one. Which hill do you want to die on? You don't want to die on every hill. You want to die on the hill that really matters.
Following the sword when it matters the most.
Yes.
Take a break with Bruce Mitchell. Back after this on GreensboroSports.com.